The business's superannuation page can be accessed here or here. On the superannuation page, you can manage your business's superannuation settings. There are two tabs: Superannuation and Reassign Superfund Details. If you are wanting to change any of these settings for an employing entity, instead of navigating to the superannuation page, you'll need to go to Payroll Settings, Employing Entities, and go from there. If we look at the Superannuation tab, it will show different settings depending on whether or not you have registered with Beam. This business has not registered with Beam, so the two options shown are Default Super Funds and Register with Beam. In regards to adding a default fund, it is an ATO requirement for all employers to nominate a default super fund. If your employees provide their own fund details, you'll add those to the super funds page of their employee record. If your employee hasn't provided you with their super fund of choice, you are still obligated to pay their super contributions. Due to the new super steepling rules that took effect from the 1st of November 2021, an employer can only assign the default fund if the employee explicitly states as such via the Super Choice form. Otherwise, the employer will need to seek out the employee's stapled fund and apply that instead, applying the default fund only if your employee doesn't choose a super fund and the ATO have advised you that they don't have a stapled super fund. If you are not registered with Beam, you can add a default fund by clicking the Add option here. However, if you are registered with Beam and want to add or delete a default super fund, you will need to do this via the Beam user interface. You would click on the Edit Details in Beam button, which would appear under the Manage Beam section. To add a default fund, you'll need to enter the fund name, ABN or USI in the search field and click on the Search button. A list of results will appear based on your search criteria, and you can select the relevant fund. Once the fund is selected, the fund name, ABN, and USI will populate in the default Superfund section. You can then enter the phone number and website address of the Superfund and click Save. You can add more than one default fund. Just start the process again by clicking on the Add button. Once you have set up a default fund, this will allow admin users to select this option when adding a new employee to the system. The Superannuation tab also includes the option to register with Beam, and when you click on that option, you'll be taken to the registration wizard to complete the details. If the business has already registered with Beam, this tab would display the current Beam settings, which include the business ABN, direct debit account details, if that is the method being used to pay super contributions, and refund bank account details. You'll also be able to edit those details from this page. The Reassign Superfund Details tab is handy for when a super fund changes the ABN or USI for a super product, as you can use this function to make bulk updates to the employee's superfund details. Let's say the fund is Hester. You would enter it into the field and click Search. Once you select the required super fund from the list, the number of employees and employee names with that super fund will be displayed on the screen. You can click on the drop-down arrow to see the list of these employees. You will then need to enter into the search the details of the super fund you would like these employees to switch to. You can enter the fund name, USI, or ABN. Then click on Search, select the required fund from the list, and click Update. You will then be prompted to update the Superfund details for all non-processed contributions. If you select Yes, this will update the Superfund details for all contributions that have been calculated in pay runs where the super is yet to be processed. If you select No, the Superfund details will only be updated for any super contributions calculated in pay runs created after this update. You will then see the message that the fund has been successfully updated for all relevant employees.